Hi, so I'm making this video to tell you what it's like to be stressed out all the time and what stress causes. I'm doing this for everyone, not just people who are visually impaired. Okay, so it started when I was in the middle of grade 7, and I just didn't know how to handle my emotions. Like, sometimes my EA from junior high would say rude comments to me and stuff like, "Oh, you're in grade 8 and blah blah blah," right? You know. And one time when I was going to when I was on a field trip, I was like depressed on the bus, and she was like, "Oh, you're going to a high school. You gotta stop crying and blah blah blah." You know what I'm saying? And I was like, and sure, a lot of times I won't mention her name, okay? But a lot of times she seemed nice, but a lot of the times she had her days where she was just being all snappy and bitchy, and I just didn't know how to deal with my emotions, and what caused me to try to grow up fast in junior high is people telling me that you gotta act grown up in junior high, you gotta not act childish, But so that's why I tried in junior high. I think I tried to grow up too fast. But it's normal for us to grow out of things and mature, But I just didn't know how to. But depression has been affecting me a lot. So often I would get headaches. I would leave class a lot to go in the bathrooms. I would pretty much hide behind the stalls and blow my nose and wipe my tears for an hour. It's just or 2 hours. It's just unhealthy now that I look back at it. And yeah, I by the time I was in grade 9, I just didn't know how to be a kid anymore. I forgot how to be a kid. I was serious all the time. I didn't handle teasing very well. I often got offended when people tried to joke around with me. I didn't understand what people meant, like, don't sweat the small stuff, when I was a teenager. But now that I'm older, basically, don't sweat the small stuff just means don't try to let minor things bother you. Now that I look back at it. So I'm doing this video for people who are visually impaired or not. So for pretty much everyone, everyone can watch this, not just people who are visually impaired, and anyone. In high school, when I was in grade 10, I had a new EA named Miss Ropo. And she was a good person because she taught me life's too short. You gotta learn how to have fun at times. You can't always be serious. So in high school, I just had to learn how to be a kid again and hang out with my peers. I spent too much time as a 13 and 14-year-old hanging out with adults much older than me at parties. Yeah, so my high school experiences were stressful, but it's normal. It's normal for us to stress. It's part of life. So there's two main types of stress. There's the bad stress and there's the good stress. The good stress could be excitement, for example. So yeah, so if you have too much excitement, then that's not good either, as well as bad stress. I've learned that stress does a lot of bad things for you. Like it runs the risk of you having a heart attack, raises blood pressure. It speeds up aging process, and it suppresses your immune system. So I learned this from websites on the internet when I was searching about stress. Well, we need to stress in order to achieve things, to strive to achieve things at times, Like if we haven't stressed, if we didn't stress, we wouldn't be alive right now, if we didn't stress, we would be living a carefree environment all the time. You know, we won't know what's like to, you know, be stressed. You know, I think stress is a part of life, but if you stress it to a certain point that is unhealthy, then it can cause you problems. You'll get sick often, and plus you'll often feel tired and exhausted, and you'll get headaches. Like I did, it doesn't feel good at all. I had trouble all the time letting go of things in the past, and I still do today. I tend to dwell on things from the past. And my EA named Miss Ropo. Her first name was Angela. She always told me, life is too short. You gotta leave things in the past, and you gotta learn how to be a kid and have fun and enjoy life. Don't waste your life stressing all the time. And she told me that stress ages you, and I didn't believe it at first because I was just a 15-year-old, and I just didn't believe it. Sometimes she said things that insulted me, but she apologized afterwards. Like she understood, and for 8 years, I've been thinking about my cousin Henry, who used to torment me when I was a kid. And it still bothers me today sometimes, but I try not to get over it. Like, I used to see my cousin as being immature and childish. And now that he's 24 and he made the decision to go back to school, I try to realize that he's a grown man now. He's not a kid anymore. He's 24. And he doesn't tease me anymore, which I have to realize now. Whenever I didn't get a good mark on a test, I would spend hours crying and being depressed because I didn't get a good mark. I just didn't know how to deal with it because I basically passed pretty much everything, even my tests. And I always got good grades in junior high. And most of high school. I was a perfectionist, which I still am now, and I'm doing my best not to beat myself up too much. Like if it weren't for my old English teacher, Mr. Piazza, he wouldn't have told me to, the weightlifting analogy. So I'll tell you about it. Okay, so basically. Okay, so you're lifting weights, and you're trying to lift a 20-pounder, but your muscles aren't strong enough, and then you beat yourself over it because you can't lift 20 pounds, and you want to get strong right away, and you basically can't. Basically, what Mr. Piazza is trying to say is you can't beat yourself over something that you're not ready for. So I took English 30-1, and basically it was a bit too hard because I didn't get good marks in English. So English has always been hard for me, and I always struggled with it. So he told me that maybe English 30-1 wasn't the best for me. Well, I took it when I was upgrading. I had an EA that treated me like shit. And her name was Mrs. Galka. I used to think she was nice at first, but in the middle of the year, she started treating me like shit, and she treated me like I had a learning disability. She would say not this, that, and so on, you know. And she would say find the wall, find the board, or whatever it is, you know. And yeah, one time when I was doing my exam, I wanted to write my multiple choice answers in my Braille note. So Miss Nelson, one of the EAs was my scribe, and she let me do that. But then when she came back, Miss Nelson told me that Miss Galka was like, no, you can't use your Braille note. That's cheating. Blah blah blah. And Miss Nelson was like, "Oh, you're being sneaky, aren't you?" And I'm like, and I just don't appreciate it. It offended me, and but one time I was trying to. This was before my tests. I was trying to do a certain question. It was multiple choice. I didn't remember the formula, so I looked at the formula that I wrote in my Braille note when I was from one of the notes I took in class. I managed to find it. Then I told Miss Gokko that I looked it up and I kind of cheated, like, but then I looked at the formula, which was kind of cheating, because I just didn't know that I just didn't know I was supposed to, but I did anyways. And then I told Mr. Hallberg. I think that's probably why, like, she didn't want me to use my Braille note, but she didn't take into consideration that my Braille note was my writing tool, just like sighted people use pencils to write. I don't remember what formula I was trying to look up, and I just wasn't sure if I was supposed to memorize the formula or not. And so yeah, that's why I looked it up, because I just wasn't sure what it was, and yeah, so I told Mr. Hallberg that I looked it up anyways, and I was honest. I was honest with him that I looked up the formula, and but at least I wasn't trying to look up the answer straight. If you try to look up just the answer straight, then that would be really cheating. But yeah, most of the time, Mr. Hallberg, my science teacher, would let us use the data booklet to look up formulas. I used to think that was cheating before, because I didn't know. Like Mrs. Gokko, like she accused me of lying. And I'll tell you how she accused me of lying. Okay, so one day I was sending an assignment into Miss Gokko to print. Then I realized I missed something, and I didn't and I forgot to proofread it. And then she's like, "Oh, you lied, blah blah blah." Man, I just hate her. Like she only acts nice when she's around the teachers, and my peers. But the way she talks to me is just shit, man, shit. I'm sorry that I'm swearing, but the reason why I'm swearing because I'm angry right now. I've been trying to quit swearing for days. I managed to quit in July, but then I started 2 months later again. My school, I went to Center High, and I used to like Center High. I was with Mrs. Gokko for a while because the school was bringing in an EA that knew Braille. So 2 weeks later, that EA came. It was supposed to be Miss Ropo, but it wasn't. Turned out to be a different lady named Mrs. Thompson. Mrs. Thompson was a very nice lady. And she was very generous and very considerate, but she also babied me too. I don't like people who baby, so no offense. But then unfortunately it didn't last long. When I was with Mrs. Thompson, I was not allowed to take the stairs to my classes. I had to take the elevator all the time. I could only take the stairs if I was with Mrs. Thompson. Like seriously, when she was around, I felt like a child. I didn't want to be around her because she babied me, but at the same time she was a nice person. But now that I look back, the reason why she tends to baby is because she worked a lot with the younger students. She didn't work with people my age, and she's used to working with elementary people. But then unfortunately, her position got abolished, and I was stuck with Mrs. Gokko for the rest of the year. And I'm like, how am I supposed to manage without an EA who does not know Braille? For a whole year. I've never done it before, and I was shocked. I was very shocked and I was very depressed and I was frustrated. And I'm just like, how could the school do this? It's unbelievable. When Mrs. Thompson was around, we didn't have the equipment to braille things. So Edna and Inez and Irene would do all the brailing. So they're the braillists that would do the brailing, and then they would mail it to the school. But then for the rest of the year, the school had hired Irene and Inez to do all the brailing. They're from the University of Alberta, and they're really great braillists. They're pros. I barely see errors in their brailing at all. Or almost never. Eventually, what I did was I decided to play detective. I talked to the vice principal and I talked to the principal about my issues of having Mrs. Galka because she didn't know Braille. And they said we had it covered. We had it covered. Irene and Inez are doing the brailing and stuff, you know. And the vice principal and the principal said we're making sure that everything is in Braille for you, so don't worry, blah blah blah. And with a bit of help from Miss Ropo, I told the school that I didn't feel like the school was accommodating me, and the way my EA treated, and I told them about the way my EA treated me. And I didn't like being at Center High at all. You know, now that I look back, I'm not going to ever go back to that school again. By the end of the year, I'm just like, I'm not going back. And I'll tell you why I left Center High. This is because of the way I was treated by my EA. I didn't appreciate her treating me like a retard. I didn't appreciate her treating me like I have a mental or learning disability at all. She was just not a nice person. She had no right to treat me like shit. No way. No way whatsoever she had the right to treat me like shit. And pretty much after I left Center High, I've been cursing about my EA in my room a lot of times. I would swear and I would shout and I would get depressed and I would get angry. And today my sister would just remind me, life is what you make of it. If you choose to be miserable, then you are going to be miserable. If you choose to be happy, you're going to be happy. You can't rely on people to make you happy. And she's right about that, which I realize. And she's 18 years old and she's in her first year of university. I'm almost 20. It's almost my birthday. I'm glad that I have a family that loves me, which is a good thing, and understand me. My sister's proud of the fact that I am very positive about my disability. And she doesn't see me any different from other people. She just sees me as a normal person. I do too. Okay, so back to my Center High story. Okay. Yeah, so I told my EA that I was not coming back to Center High because I just wanted to move on with my life. And she told me that I was crazy because if I were to do more upgrading, I could just then I could just save money by being at Center High. And a male EA was like, would you rather spend $5,000 in general studies, or would you rather spend $20 at Center High? And I told them it depends on the situation. I don't think that life is all about saving money. Sometimes you just have to you just have to think more about the quality than the price value. Sure, you can get something really cheap, but it can be really crappy quality. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes it's good to pay more money for the quality, for the great quality. like my Coach purses, they're expensive, but you know what? They're really good quality, and I think they'll last me a long time. So I'm glad I left Center High. I didn't even keep my Center High student ID card at all because I hate Center High. The ID cards were so cheap and bendy, and they looked like paper. So this is my East Glen ID. It's not cheapy. It's very good quality. So right now, I'm going to try to leave my past behind right now and move on. It's 2012, and I'm going to university in January. And I'm going to try to be content. I'm going to try not to stress. I'll try not to be so depressed. I'll try to be as happy as possible, and if something is bothering me, I'll talk to one of my sisters or my parents. You know, I realize my sister is right about me choosing my life, you know? Life's what you make it. And you have to be proactive about everything. You can't let certain actions from people affect you. You can't let things that people say affect you. I read this book called The 7 Habits of Highly Effective Teens, and it really teaches you how to be proactive. Mostly I have trouble with habit number 1. Habit number 1 is to be proactive. And habit number 7, which is sharpen the saw. Basically, when I look back at that sentence, sharpen the saw, it basically just means to renew yourself. Don't wear yourself out. Make sure you get rest. That's how I interpret sharpen the saw. I never let my visual impairment affect me. I never tell myself I can't do this because I can't see. I can't have a car. I can't make a lot of money. I can't do this. I can't do that. I have to depend on my appearance because I can't see. No, I don't do that. I'm a very passionate person, and I always try to cope with my vision loss. The people that helped me do this was my independent living skills specialist from CNIB and orientation and mobility instructors, my teachers, my EA from high school, etc. Miss Ropo, I don't mean Miss Skalka. So I'll try my best to move on. And those of you who are depressed all the time, I hope you guys will learn how to move on too. Life is too short, and don't ever start hating people, including your ex-friends. The reason why hatred is so bad for you is because it makes you feel bitter and angry and hateful. It's not a good feeling at all. The person I hated for 3 years was a girl named Samantha. We used to be best friends. We've met when we were 12 and 13. Well, I was 12. Samantha was 13. We met at the CNIB camp. But then, by the end of my first year of high school, I have stopped talking to her because I found out that she lied to me. And so I really not tell you what she lied about because it's a long story. And whenever Samantha tried to talk to me, I would ignore her and turn my face away from her. I would not speak to Samantha on the bus when she spoke to me. I would be rude to her and snap. None of your business. You don't need to know what's going on. The reason why I was rude to Samantha was because I didn't feel like I needed to respect her because she have deceived me, and yeah, so I hated her for 3 years. I talked to one of my friends about it, and we kept swearing about her and calling her names on the phone, like teacher's pet. And it's not good, which I realize that now. So, by learning from life experiences, I feel like I'm a lot older and wiser now. So thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video.